What I thought we would do is talk a little bit about what I call digital evolution. And here's what I see as our problem. That young people have a lot of challenges. They have a lot of issues. And all of these things apply. They have less empathy than they used to. These are all studied things. They have increased mental illness, I think, is a thing we're seeing. And overall, if you add all this stuff up, it's making people less happy. Now, I'm not going to say that it's technology that's causing that, but it's certainly one of the many factors in kind of the storm. On the other hand, there are some amazing things that are happening. People, in many ways, are more engaged than ever before. People have a bigger voice than they've ever had before. Individuals can contribute to the world more easily than ever before. And so we have this kind of challenge of, hey, there are these risks, but hey, it comes with these benefits as well. And I think this is always the way technology works and progress works. It's just a new field. So what I thought we would do is talk a little bit about that today. Now, my wife is a teacher. I teach a university class. My wife is a high school teacher in Brantford. I live in Hamilton. And my wife, I think, is really good at setting limits in her classroom, setting expectations properly, but I was kind of curious because she still struggles with students using technology inappropriately in their class. Maybe we can do another stomp, stomp, clap. How many people, the teachers, struggle with their students using technology inappropriately in class? Okay, that's probably why you're here, right? In some ways. So here's my big picture solution, if you want. In general, adults need to be more involved in the conversation about technology. That's the big message. One of the things that we need to do is set limits. And this is not a new concept, but it's so rarely actually practiced. And the reason is because setting limits is hard. It requires trade-offs, it requires effort, and follow-through and perseverance. Another thing is that we need to teach empathy. We need to teach character more intently and differently than ever before, because the digital conversation is sometimes replacing our real-life conversation. And real-life conversation is where we learn empathy. So we need to do a more careful job at teaching empathy specifically. And the third thing I'd say is that not everyone loves this digital stuff, and it's probably not for everyone. I don't know that we can stop the digital train, but the way I see it, maybe what we can do is build another set of tracks that lead people down a path towards things that we believe are important. We need to recognize that it's people that should drive the direction of the train, not technology. So we need to see ourselves as in control of this situation, and to do that, we have to be more involved with it. Does that make sense? And those real-life communities, I think, are going to be what help us set that direction. It's why a day like today is so exciting, because we have a chance to talk about it. What I thought we could do is I'd take you through a very short history, a very compressed digital history, and maybe this will help remind us of a few things. I'm a big believer that if you want to solve a problem, you need to really understand a problem. And maybe it's my engineering background, I'm not sure, but the first step to understanding a problem, or first step to solving a problem, is understanding a problem. And so that's what I'm going to try to do right now in the next, 10, 15, 20 minutes. We'll see how far we get. We're going to talk about solutions. So go back about 1964. A computer scientist slash philosopher named Joseph Weizenbaum invents a computer program called ELIZA. ELIZA was designed to be a psychotherapist, or rather it was designed to imitate a psychotherapist. People would type their situation into a computer. The computer would, by analyzing the words that you typed, ask you questions, and get you to think a little bit. So you would say, I'm having a bad day. The computer would type back, tell me about your day. Right? Well, my dad was being a real bozo this morning. Tell me about your dad. And Eliza did this. Now, amazingly, this didn't go away, by the way, right? Bots. This was the example of the first bot. And bots now do so much stuff. You've probably seen, you've been on a website, and it says, a chat representative is waiting to chat with you if you need customer service. How many people have seen that before? Yes. You are probably not talking with a real person. You're probably talking with a bot. But they're pretty good at fooling you. And sometimes you'll get directed to a new person or to a real person if needed. But bots can do most of it. Now, Eliza was really the first bot. Now, what's happening, or what happened with people as they used this was interesting, because people actually felt that Eliza really understood them. They felt like this computer had some insight into their life. The computer has no knowledge of life. The computer has just digital circuitry, and by using algorithms, found, highlighted specific words and would use those words and form sentences. It was different than being a person, just so we're clear. It wasn't a person. It didn't actually understand, but it existed and it made people feel understood. And so Joseph Weizenbaum asked a good question. He said, if there are things that computers can do, does that necessarily mean that they should do those things? Just because a computer can do something, ought it to do those things? Or are there some things that ought not to be the domain of technology? And that's an interesting question, and I think it sets a philosophy, sets a conversation for the next 60 years. Fast forward a little bit, another philosopher named Nozick asks a question. He says, pretend you could have a machine that would simulate an experience. And you would plug in, kind of like the Matrix. You plug in and it can simulate an experience. Would you choose to be plugged into such a machine? And you can ask it in a bunch of different ways. One, where you get to plug in and then unplug if you want. And two, you can plug in if you want, but you don't get to unplug. How many people, by the way, would choose to plug into the machine? How many people would plug in if they knew they could unplug from the machine? Almost everybody. How many people would plug in if you could not unplug? Almost nobody. What this shows is that there is a difference. People really do value real life. I ask this to students as well. They say the same things. Students really do value real life experiences. So do we. We have that in common. This is the first thing that kind of looked like a computer. And then fast forward a few more years, in the 70s and 80s, computer hackers emerged. Hackers weren't people that were trying to break in and steal data from Sony. Okay, that's kind of the term we see it in the news now. Hackers were people who liked to play. They liked to play with computers, and they would make programs, and they were kind of consumed with fiddling with things. They still exist now, by the way. In fact, hackathons are things that exist. There was one at McMaster just a few weeks ago where people go and they spend 24 hours or 36 hours, they work all through the night to try to solve a problem together. Sometimes a really amazing problem, like how could we make an app that would improve healthcare or whatever. They say something like this, and they have 250 students work for 24 hours on a problem, and they come up with incredible solutions. People do this not for pay, just for fun. So that's the hacker culture. This is an example of one of the programs that people made. It's called The Game of Life. No time to talk about that today. What we didn't expect from the hacker culture, and this was studied a little bit later, was that humans started acting like computers. Especially young people who were kind of the digital natives, not so much the digital immigrants. The more people used computers as kids, the more they took on the features of computers. What do I mean? they started to demonstrate these things: low tolerance for ambiguity, expecting perfection. I mean, the allure of a computer is nice, right? If you give it perfect information, it will give you a perfect solution. But people started to have a slightly less personal approach to the world. One of my friends, I've seen this in the midst of our engineering program. You know, we'd be in a conversation about something, probably music or girls or something, you know, and he'd say, okay, I want to have this conversation for 4 more minutes and then I'm done. He just expected, it was like his engineer problem-solving mindset. It was like, this really is changing how we interact with each other as people. This is my first computer, not this one in particular, but the Apple II. How many people had an Apple II at some point? A few people. I remember, I must have been 4 or 5 maybe. I remember wiggling my front teeth, my baby teeth, and pulling them out as I sat at the computer when I was a kid. In 1982, Time awarded a rather interesting Person of the Year. Now, just to review, Time magazine each year reviews or awards somebody the Person of the Year who has made the greatest impact on humanity, for better or for worse. And in 1982, does anyone remember who it was? It wasn't Steve Jobs, although he thought he was going to get it. It turns out it was the personal computer. It was the first time that and only time, to my knowledge, that the Person of the Year was awarded to an inanimate object. But it was so important, they said, this has made more of an impact on humanity than anything else. 1982 also happened to be significant because I was born. And so I thought that was kind of neat. That gave me a neat reference point. Okay, personal computer, Person of the Year. Fast forward about 15 years, me in high school. Okay, here I am. Seriously, this is me. Some of you might remember the band Hanson. I was a member of the band Hanson. It's not photoshopped either, that's real. Okay, grade 9, my grade 9 year. I grew up in St. Mary's, not too far from here, right between here and Stratford. And there we go. And my first high school assignment that I needed to use the internet for. In fact, it's the first school assignment ever that I needed to use for which I needed to use the internet. Was a business project. And my task was to figure out what McDonald's did. There was a shooting at a McDonald's back in like 1984 or 86 or something. I wanted to know their marketing response. What did they do? Well, now we might go on Wikipedia and look this up. One of the ways this is changing is information is everywhere. You know this as teachers, right? Information is about the least valuable thing we offer people now. Right? It's free. And I went on to a chat room. Wikipedia didn't exist. I went on to a chat room and I asked. And there was an online community. And I said, what did they do? And somebody got back to me within a few days. And I was annoyed that it took a few days instead of a few minutes, but that's still a lot better than, I don't know, flying to California and looking up people and doing research like they did the old way. You might remember that Netscape Navigator, by the way, back in the old days there. Okay, 2006. This is my graduating year from university. Who's the Person of the Year this year? Anybody know? It was you. That's right. You were the Person of the Year. Why is that? Well, this is the year that the blogosphere, as they called it, right? The Twitter sphere didn't exist yet. I think Twitter came out about 2007 maybe. But the blogosphere, YouTube, it all exploded. Excuse me. It exploded in popularity. All of a sudden, you didn't need to have a lot of specific knowledge about computers to contribute to the online world. And so you were able to contribute like never before. And now, this is why it's so amazing. When I was in high school, we had to learn HTML and Java to be able to put up a very basic informational web page. Now, anyone here could go and do an online tutorial And within an hour, you could have a very good-looking web page representing yourself. You could have an online store. You could have an incredible community online that was just started by, an average person who has no particular deep knowledge. 2007, the iPhone came out. It's hard to imagine life without smartphones, isn't it? It's really hard to imagine. Think of all the things we use these for. And it only started, really, the iPhone 2007. 2008, laptops took over the desktop world, and they continue to reach new low price points. One of the effects that this is going to have is that it doesn't affect us so much because we can afford computers, and we could for a while now. But the emerging economies, all of us, a $200 laptop is within range for people in India to have this, for people in China, right? It's more accessible than ever before. And this is going to accelerate the speed at which technology changes. So this is the kind of the market now. 2012, there was an interesting article in the Globe and Mail. People are tuning in alone. So there are more screens than people in a household, and people are watching things, and they're watching them more independently. And that's an interesting reflection of our culture now. People want to have more discretion over where they put their attention. Teachers, you've probably seen that if you're not, I see this anyways. I try hard to be engaging. I ask good questions. I tell good stories. I do my best. But I find if I'm not just plain entertaining, students are quick to take their attention elsewhere. And I don't know that that's a good thing, but I think that's a trend that we need to talk about. How do we deal with this in a world where people can be very specific about where they place their attention? If you're not interesting, I'll find something that is. Today, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and email, it's all in there. I actually think Facebook might be on its way out. People are posting less personal things now. It's more of an aggregator, a news aggregator. I know lots of students don't have email addresses. They only use Facebook, or texting is the way to go for them. That seems to be the most common way to get in touch with them, for better or for worse. I'm not sure. 2/3 of youth have a tablet, and some schools are adopting iPad for every child types of things. Is it good? Is it bad? I'm not sure. And you probably feel, I don't know if you feel this way, my inbox is just overflowing. This isn't my particular inbox, thankfully, but it's not that far off of this is the problem. There's just so much out there. We're being bombarded constantly, and we have to be able to filter through the noise. Today, maybe the main thing, people don't know anything different. I was on a train, and I was sitting across from a girl. I think she was traveling with her grandmother. This is a few years ago, and I had my laptop out, and I'm typing away. And the little girl struck up a conversation. She said, "Wow, is that your computer?" I said, "Yes, it is." She was, "Wow, that's a nice one." I said, "Wow, well, thank you. Do you have a computer?" She said, "Yes, I have one in my room." I said, "You have a computer in your room?" And she said, "Yes, but my parents won't let me get the internet yet. Maybe next year." I said, "Wow, how old are you?" 5. Huh. I've met somebody else on a plane. She says regularly her grade 3 daughter every night has homework that requires the use of the internet. People don't know anything different now. I don't know about you, but in some ways I feel more disconnected, more online, but more disconnected than ever before. This is just a sad example of that, really. You and Dad divorced? Oh, I forgot to mention that to you, right? And it's a result of all this stuff, but there's a whole new language. You can probably read this, right? "Oh my gosh, gotta go, talk to you later." Okay, right? Okay, figure out this one. The little bumper stumpers here. You might remember that video or that game show. Can you figure it out? Anyone message Katie about downloading the homework? Your students can read this. Here's one more. Try it. This is fun. In my humble opinion, that's what it stands for, I don't care about VIP tickets. Any tickets are great. Okay, now I don't know anybody who actually talks like this, actually writes like this, but how many teachers have received an essay with a short form of a word that you didn't understand on it? Okay, yeah, it happens. We need to educate people about how to use which forms of communication and in what situations they're the most appropriate. They don't know this. I've received emails from my fourth-year university students asking for extensions on assignments, no capitals, no punctuation. But maybe it's not their fault. Maybe nobody told them that certain types of communication are more appropriate in different situations. We have to be the ones to offer that guidance. It even changes how we laugh. How do we laugh now? LOL. I know people, they don't even laugh anymore. They just walk around going, LOL. It's ridiculous. But what about this one? This one? Rolling on the floor laughing, right? And that's not even as bad as it gets. But look at this one.
Oh, yeah.
While peeing in my pants. If you're actually doing this, why are you typing? Go change your pants. Mental health issues are becoming more of a thing. Something that happens when we look at things on Facebook. We're looking at people's life edited. We're not seeing reality. We're seeing only what they choose to show us. And that's why the feeling that everyone gets, this is actually a studied phenomenon. We look at things online, at other people's lives, other people's photos, and we think everyone is having so much fun except me. And it's not true. But there's a perception. Everyone's feeling it. We need to be able to address that, to talk about it, to have a conversation. Now, some people say at this point, but every generation has seen technological advances. I mean, this is nothing new. True, sort of. See, the reality is that lots of people say that cell phones in particular are the most persuasive technology ever invented because it's timely, it's immediate, it's personalized, and people are addicted to it. Just suggest to a student that they go 24 hours without their cell phone. Watch what happens. People go, no, I couldn't do it. You're addicted, right? My wife ran an assignment, an independent study assignment, no screens except for schoolwork for a weekend. Now, this was kind of neat. Like, students loved it, actually. They were like, whoa, I had good conversations with my sister. Huh. Neat. Or one student said, it was kind of lonely. Everyone else was on their screen. One parent came to parent-teacher interviews and said, that was great. I had my daughter back for the weekend. Could you have that assignment every weekend? Who's the parent here? You want me to set the limits on you? Now, we don't have time for this one. We'll come back. They mentioned I'm co-developing an app to teach creativity. Creativity is something that's super fun in real life, and if we can include more creativity, it turns out to be an antidote to a lot of the problems that come with technology. We don't have tons of time to talk about it today, but I want to get to a few other solutions. That said, if you want to leave me your email address, I will make sure on a business card or anything, a slip of paper, I will make sure that you get on the list and get access to the app free when it comes out at first. Eventually we'll sell it, but we need people to test it who want to try it, early adopters. So leave me your email address if you like. Okay, let's talk about the solutions here. What do we need to do? And all of this is just kind of framing the conversation for the day. First, we need to be willing to set limits. We're still in control, and And if we don't set limits for ourselves, someone else will decide for us. This is, I think this is just so true, right? And I've had students, they say, we play a game. It's fun, it's a game. Making things a game is a good way to ingrain habits. They say we go out together, we're hanging out together. We all turn on our cell phones, ringers on, face down in the middle of the table. First one to look has to pick up the tab. Fun, huh? Now it's a game, it's a challenge. People like to be challenged. And so if you can set limits and do it in a challenging way, can you go a day, you know? Can you go a weekend? Ooh, how long could you go? And now it's a challenge. People like challenges, so we can use that to do it. We need to reclaim this phrase, I'm busy, you'll just have to wait. We need to be responsible for setting boundaries in our own lives and in our own classrooms. We can do that. It helps when we're setting limits to be collaborative about the limits. This is an example of a school in Montreal. They have an iPad for every student, but they developed responsible use policies with their students. Again, you could copy these down, but the more beneficial thing is for you to go and sit down with your students and say, what should the rules be around this? And they were able to develop pretty good limits in plain language that work for people. That they've agreed to. Once they're bought in, it's a clearer path forward. They also chose to say some things we're not going to do technology. We're going to have our elections. You can't do a video application. You get one piece of paper and you get to decorate that. And we're going to post those in a central location, and those are the advertisements that we get to use. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. It's both. It's just different, but they took control of it, and that was cool. We need to educate. This is great. Isn't it great? We have to pay nothing for the barn. Yeah, and even the food is free. If you're not paying for it, you're not the customer, right? You're the product. We need to reinforce that with students. We need to teach people who really has something to gain here. Who has something to lose? What are the risks? They don't have that experience. We do. We do, and we can offer that to people, and we must. A few success stories. When I was talking with Katie over there and Tony, getting ready for this, they shared some success stories from your board, from other places. One of the things is an amazing digital mentorship program that's happening here. There are initiatives where people bring their own device. Teachers are saying, hey, you bring your own device, your smartphone or your tablet or your laptop to class, and we're going to learn together. We're going to have a collaborative thing. Here's the research challenge for the day. And we do it. There are reporting initiatives. Technology offers tremendous benefits in terms of reporting cyberbullying. It's super easy to report it because it exists forever, right? And you can do it anonymously. Schools and boards have often set up systems to do that, and we need to do more of it. It's like Crime Stoppers, but for anonymous online reporting. And then there are also things like assignments, and I think we're going to see more of this. We have assignments where people need to adjust their resumes. Why not have an assignment where people need to adjust their Facebook profile or their security settings? Right? We can teach people. We can use all the tools that we have as educators, as parents, as mentors, as role models. We can use these tools to reinforce positive behavior with our students, positive habits, positive choices in decision making. So you get to decide what will you do with each of these things. Maybe that's the question I'll leave for you. What are you going to do differently? And my hope by the end of the day is that you find at least one thing that you will. Start small, though. Don't think you have to change it all at once, because that's impossible and discouraging and demotivating and not realistic. So start small. Think about one little thing that you can do. And the last thing I'll say, I like this. I'm not saying this digital evolution is climate change, but I like this this slide, and there's a lot of parallels, I think. People say, what if it's all a big hoax and we, create a better world for nothing? The things that we need to focus on, setting limits, having good conversations with young people. For me, this is becoming more real. My wife and I are expecting in May, and I'm thinking thank you. I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous, as I should be, I think. But these things, it's got me thinking differently about how the world is going to unfold. And these things about teaching empathy and building real-life strong communities and setting limits and being in control of what our lives look like. I think we need to be more involved, not less involved. And this direction, these are good things. Even if we don't make a dent in the technological evolution, I still think we'll be focusing on the right things by focusing on those foundations. So I hope you have a great day, learn a ton. It's been such a privilege to start it off for you. I hope this has set the tone. Please do get in touch in the future. If I can be of assistance with something else you're working on, I would love to talk. I've got some cards over there at the table. Anything else? We've got a workshop starting in a few minutes. Thank you for a great start to the day.